You're not building equity when you rent. That's just a reality. And marketing should be a mortgage, not a rental.
Hello, I'm Kerry Guard, and welcome back to Tea Time with Tech Marketing Leaders. Oh, I'm so looking forward to this conversation. We were supposed to have it the first week of January, but due to personal circumstances, John had to make us wait. But we're here now, and we're excited because not every day you get to talk to somebody who marketing really truly found them. I love a good story, and I love when people fall into marketing and wrap their arms around it. And I think as we look to the future of needing more marketers, it's nice to just understand and unpack what that's been like for somebody from going from one industry and career to another. John is drawing on more than a decade of experience managing projects in software, information management, and other fields. He has trained product managers as they grow in their career paths as well. An experienced instructor and mentor, he has guided hundreds of project managers as they prepare for their PMP certification exam. He has years of experience in engaging, proactive training on a wide variety of tools and topics. He's passionate about sharing knowledge and information across experience levels. He believes that communal connections are indispensable assets to ensure teams avoid repeating mistakes and to truly develop and grow. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
I love this intro because I don't know if people outside of marketing truly understand how much project management and systems and processes have to be designed to get them to run efficiently.
Yes, it's a lot that can teach marketing, and marketing is a lot that could teach project managers too, just to be frank. We have this bad habit of kind of like getting on the treadmill and go, 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 go. But that when we don't slow down sometimes and be intentional and take the time to reevaluate as projects proceed and end and start again, we have to make sure that we're not losing the knowledge that we've gained, that we're not making the same mistakes twice. Because if you make a mistake, that's one thing. If you make the same mistake twice, that's an organizational failure.
Oh, tough words. That's a clip right there, Elijah. Take note. We have a PMP on our team, Avery Davis. He just got certified. What an honor that he worked with MKG to make that happen. And it has been game changing. We've always been very structured in terms of our systems and processes in the background, but there's something about the way a project manager thinks that has just really leveled us up. Why don't you take us on your journey? I could talk about this all day. We're going to get into it, but we're jumping ahead. I do want to share your story of your career. So where are you now and how did you get there?
Oh, man. We agreed before we got started, I'm not going back to my childhood, but my first job was, I was like 17 years old. I was a collections call with a phone bank, like a call center for a mail order catalog company that focused in Christmas gifts. I was in the bowels of the Stevens Point Mall in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. And that's where I kind of got started. And from there, I worked a variety of jobs, right? I worked nights in a tile factory. I worked retail. I was the supervisor for the tent sale of a shoe store in the parking lot. There was just a lot of things and just started to have work and explore that. And there's a lot of learning that went along with it. Went to college. I work study program, and I applied for the work study program, and they said you go work in the kitchens, and you gotta work in the kitchen. So I went to the head chef, very kind of cranky guy, and I went in, and he said, "Where's your class schedule?" So I gave him the class schedule paper. He looked at it, and he said, "Get out! I can't use you. I need someone for breakfast, and you got all morning classes." So I went back to the work study lady and I'm like, I got fired before I even worked a moment in the kitchen. So we had to reprocess me through the work study program. And it was several weeks, and I got a slip in my mailbox that said, report to the library for your work study program. So I went to the library and I found the head librarian, and I handed him the slip of paper, and he said, well, we've already given away all of the slots that we have for paging duty, just making sure everything's in the right order on the shelves. And that's what we normally have work study students do. But he said, since you're here, go upstairs to the second floor to the cataloging department and check in there, and you're going to work there. So for the next 3 years, during the school year and then a couple of summers as well, I worked in the cataloging department of an academic library. And I learned metadata, and I learned data entry, and I learned leading indicators, and punctuation, and all the things that you need to know on that side. I was labeling books. By the end of it, I was running special projects. I was arranging and cataloging everything in their rare books collection. It was a very informative and formative uh, experience for me. And I graduated, and I went to work for a newspaper, and I worked as a journalist for a suburban newspaper in Philadelphia, and I was there for a couple years, and that paper went out of business 2 weeks before I got married. The owner of the paper came out on the newsroom floor. He said, everyone go home. We don't have enough money to finish tonight's paper. So we were already late on pay, and I never saw that money. Um, yeah, so my wife was working as a teacher. We kind of scraped by. I worked in a bank as a bank teller to make ends meet. Um,
Still in Philly?
no, no, we relocated. As soon as my first son was born, we relocated. Like within, it was about a week after he was born. I had to come down to the DC area to start a new job, and then we kind of moved everyone down after. New job was cataloging again for a company that was subcontracted for a project at the government publishing office in Washington, D.C. So I came back to I started doing this job. Contract ended, had to find new work. Long story short, I went to work for a software company that specializes in building software for libraries. I worked in the training department. I traveled all over the country, from Anchorage, Alaska to Sanibel Island, Florida, and everywhere in between, training librarians on how to use their software, the new software they had just purchased. So I was part change agent, part sales, part instruction, and just generally like the shoulder to cry on during a it's usually a stressful process for people. And I continued to just develop there. I finished I went gone back to University of Alabama and got my master's degree in library and information studies, which is hanging on the wall behind me. 2012 was when this happened. And then I moved into the role as head librarian at a tiny art museum and library in a place called Middleburg, Virginia. And I was in charge of a collection of about 20,000 volumes, including about 8,000 volumes in rare books, like dating back to the 1520s. We had to recatalog the entire collection, and I was building rapport with donors and putting together marketing materials. And this is where like the seeds that were planted at a newspaper where I learned how to do layout and design started to kind of like grow and blossom. And I started to really leverage the skill set that I've developed in a lot of different fields and a lot of different perspectives here at this point in the story. I was doing a little bit of everything. Um, and after about 4.5 years, we had a leadership change and kind of a changing of the guard. I left that role, went to work for a largish urban public library. And I was, again, doing a little bit of everything. I was there for a few years. COVID came while I was there. I got battlefield promoted into a role where I was managing a team of 20 people. I managed the main branch, basically, everything except the children's collections. A lot of rough stuff happening there during COVID and after COVID and the aftermath. Burned out pretty hard and left for software again. Worked for a little while doing project management in software. Got my PMP. Really leveraged my skill set there, and then went out on my own. Worked independently as a consultant for about a year before landing where I'm at right now.
And you're sort of get to the end here of your story. I
Sure.
want to know what, because when you went to, I'm going way back. Sorry, folks. I
Uh,
had this question sort of back pocket, but I didn't want to mess with the flow. When you went from university, when you went from college to the newspaper, was that because were you studying journalism?
I'm an English major, and I wanted to do something kind of closely aligned to that. I was at a, I was, 22 years old. I was kind of in this mindset that said you have to kind of pick a track and stay in it. And I was like, well, I studied English. I need to find something that's related to English. I can write. I better do that. Um, and then, so like, I joined a newspaper in 2008, and they had a Bloomberg machine. I don't know if anyone's familiar with those. There's like a big, almost like IBM machine, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
dedicated to Bloomberg News and all of the tickers for all of the stock markets. And my desk was literally right next to the Bloomberg machine. And then the housing crisis happened, and I got to watch it happen in real time. Like, the whole stock market just kind of slid off a cliff, and I watched everything turn bright red on the Bloomberg machine. And I was like, I don't know what's happening, but it's probably pretty bad. And 3 months later, the paper was out of business. So yeah, so that's kind of
Tell
where
me.
that shift came. But I'm writing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm writing for a public audience, and I'm blogging,
Right.
and I'm developing style, I'm developing a voice. And then when everything kind of got cut back and things were very shoestring, I start doing layout and design. I start doing proofreading. I start doing, like, these end up being like invaluable skills. I was on um, I forget what the software was we were doing, but like eventually I said, I got to learn Adobe, because that's the standard for the industry. So, those are, it's like just building the skill set. And I like to tell people when I'm training them, I said, project management, project work, whatever, it's field agnostic, but the goal is to put as many tools as you can into your toolbox, right? It's to put as many, and to know when to bring them out and use them. That's the wisdom behind it, right? That's the art, not the science.
Well, this is the beautiful thing about the intersectionality of everything that you learned up into this point. So, where are you now, and how are those skills converging
Behind
across
it,
the
right?
board?
Yeah, I am director of operations for Queen Consulting and Technology. We are a small woman-owned business in Front Royal, Virginia. It's about 65 miles west of Washington, D.C. Um, and I am integrating a lot of things across the business, right? Helping with sales, helping with marketing, helping with like processes and procedure, and all kinds of like grow and structure and make the leap from what was a very small entrepreneurial business into a more established kind of like um, organized structure inside, as we're growing. And so it's just a matter of like harnessing the skills of everyone as best I can. So that's where I am now. I've been there for over a year. First, I came on as like a contractor consultant, and now I'm working with them full time. It's a 15-minute commute to work for me, which is great, especially here in the DC area. It's almost unheard of. I live about 2 or 3 thousand, about 1,000 feet, I think, from the banks of the Shenandoah River. We're out in the country. We're right where the mountains are, and we're getting along there. I've kind of wended my way in the organization through like a sales pipeline. I was doing event management. I helped put on a conference in Boston. Doing
Nice.
cold calls. I was doing events, like outreach events, like going out and shaking hands and building relationships and all of those things as well.
Kissing babies.
Kissing
Love it.
babies.
Kissing babies, shaking hands. DC, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
politician right there.
You have no idea.
All the things. So many
I
skills.
did
So
serve.
many skills.
I was a local politician for 4 years. I helped. I was on the town council of our town for 4 years. So recovering,
Well, there you go. So I wasn't far
political,
off.
yeah, recovering political, whatever, on this end.
So perfect for sales because it's the same idea in terms of building relationships. You got to build that trust. You got to get out there and shake real hands. I love that.
Yeah.
I loved your journey specifically, and why I thought it was different than so many people that I've talked to is because normally people come out of school and then they end up in marketing, whether they went to school for anything within the realm of business or marketing
Sure.
or not. That's just sort of like they could make. Example is me. I went to school for photography, and I wanted to be in the advertising side, taking the pictures. But lo and behold, the only way for me to get to New York in the time around the same time, so when the market crashed, 2008, I was at a digital marketing agent. I was at a marketing agency, and I saw our ad spend for print just go off a cliff.
Yeah.
So yeah, good times.
Yeah.
Yes. So I became a media planner because that was the easiest way for me to get to New York in a stint, and that's generally how like marketing stories go.
Mm.
And so what I really loved about your story and what I think gets sort of lost in the sauce of for those of us who just sort of go straight into marketing is the intersectionality of all of these wonderful skill sets that are now converging for you, and that you are able to be in this unique seat because of all of those wonderful skills you've created along the way, from journalism to data management to leading a team at a library through crisis. I mean, and now you're in cyber, which makes perfect sense. Talk about leading in crisis. You are right where you need to be, sir.
Yeah.
Right where you need to be. So let's talk about what skill do you feel like from what you've from all the skill sets you've built up over the years.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're using all of them, but for where you are right now, where are you like, yes, I'm so glad I know how to do that thing.
I'm going to back my way up a little bit on that question because really it's not like a hard skill. It's a mindset that has helped me tremendously, especially when it comes to everything about growing a business. That everything is like, if you drill down far enough, it is sales, yes, but sales comes from marketing, yes, and then marketing and sales and relationship building, community building is really what you're talking about. Can you build a community around a product or a brand? Can you build a community around a service? Can you build a community around an organizational flavor? That's the name of the game. And the internet and the rise of digital media has dramatically shifted that landscape since I entered the workforce. It's like night and day. Used to be like television commercials and print ads, and you were looking for that identity. Everyone was like digging for that identity or that message or whatever is going to do it. Now we dig for authenticity, and there's a reason for that. But before I dive like too deep, I'm going to geek out a little bit. Okay, so I'm working for this museum, and my mentor and leader at the time, her name is Melanie Matthews. She's like aces. She's like a tremendous leader. And she is currently like directing major gifts for the Wexner Center of the Arts at Ohio State. But she was running our little museum at the time. And she kind of got into, in her younger years, a guy named Michael Kaiser, who was the president of the Kennedy Center. He was the executive director for the Alvin Ailey Dance Troupe. Like, he was a huge arts mind, and he was known as the turnaround king. He would take troubled arts organizations and turn them into thriving, successful arts organizations. And we're an arts organization, and she's like, we need to start doing some of these things. And she actually got Kaiser to come out and give us a lecture to our board of directors. So I got to meet him in person, get him to sign his book. And
That's amazing.
it made a big difference. I've got, I think, 3 of his books on my shelf behind me over there. And Kaiser he's very straightforward in what he does. He calls it the cycle. And his first the first maxim, there's four maxims, four parts of the cycle. The first one, make great art. This is translatable to everything. Everything. Be excellent, great product, wonderful service, have identity, authenticity, like be real. Something that makes a difference in people's lives. Great art. And that's followed by what he calls institutional marketing, which is different than like technically marketing. Yes, you need to
Mm-hmm.
technically market. You need to have like print materials or ads or, social media and the stuff, right? The technical nuts and bolts of how we market. But he says you also need institutional marketing, which really boils down to everywhere your target audience looks, they need to see you. You need to be in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
That means all the soft skill stuff. It's like going on podcasts. It's, doing guest posts on blogs. It's it's everywhere you look. He was getting up at 4 in the morning to go on local news hits for morning local television to help these like troubled arts organizations he was leading. He was in charge of the London Opera House. He was in charge of like the Kansas City Ballet. He's turned around these tremendously troubled organizations, and his background was in, I think he's a finance guy, right? He's an investment broker
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. This is the second step is institutional marketing. You got to be everywhere. You got to be everywhere. And the third step is you have to find your people and invite them into your family. There has to be a family. This has to be their organization too. They need to understand that they're welcome, that they're part of your success. This is a different paradigm now. We're not selling a product to a customer on a shelf. We're building a
Mm-hmm.
community around a brand and an identity. Apple does this tremendously well.
Yep.
So that then you have a family and your family has grown. And when your family grows and they feel good about what you're doing, they feel like this is their organization too, they give. They give their time, they give their energy, they give their focus, they give their attention, and they give their money. And that's the fourth portion of the cycle is the giving. But that follows the most critical component, the most critical element of the cycle is the last step. You don't take the money and sit on it. You reinvest in great art. And then you're doing more art and people are more excited and they're coming in. Your family's getting bigger and they're giving more. And you have a community that's growing. It's a positive cycle. And this is tremendously exciting for me as I'm reading this because we're a small arts organization. We start doing things to build our identity and to build our community. And we started doing these like summer concert series. I mean, we had nobody coming to our organization. There's no one coming in the door. Everyone said that's a building for the rich people on the board of directors. So we started doing a summer concert series. Admission was free. There was wine and beer and food trucks on the lawn. You get a glass of wine for $5. Don't bring your own bottle is the only real rule. If you want to use the restroom, you got to go inside the museum and see the art. We were
Look at
going
that.
around to the local schools, all the private schools, we said, we want you to be a sponsor. They're like, oh boy, how much do you want? We're like, we just want you to put the flyer in the backpacks of your students. That's it. We
Look
don't
at
want
that.
any money from you. This is this is your event. We're bringing in local bands, bringing in regional bands. Like people are showing up. We have 400 people on the lawn every time we do one of these. It becomes like a phenomenon. And
Yeah.
the town only had 600 people in it. Like people are driving in from out of town to attend this concert on our lawn. That's free. We've built a community around it. That organization continues to do that concert series today, and I haven't even been there in 6 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it has lasting staying power, and after a while, you just have to maintain it. Keep the cycle going, keep the organization, keep the brand growing.
So, how do you bring people to the building by meeting them within their interests
Mhm. Yeah,
and then and tying it to the brand, right? Music is still art and making great art
yeah,
through music. And then, that I just So smart. So how has that transcended into what you're doing today, which is in more of a digital realm?
It's all the same. It's all the same. It's do you have something worthwhile, great art, right? Do you have something worthwhile to sell? If you don't, you're gonna really have a hard time, regardless of how many fancy marketing, slick marketing things you do. There's a billion ads for Temu. I'm not impressed with the service. That's just me. It's my opinion. And so it's like it doesn't matter how many ads you bombard me with. After a while, it becomes a negative cycle for me,
Hmm.
right? Because
I agree with that.
it's not great art. It's not great product. So you need something worthwhile to sell. But then everything else, digital, physical, it doesn't matter. Find the people, make them care, invite them into your family. That is marketing. There's 100%, in my opinion, the totality of marketing, and everything else is just details.
You make
In
it sound so easy, but we all know.
Well, it's not that hard if you're good at finding people and talking to them and getting them to give a damn about something. Like it's not that hard. Like Trevor Van Warden is here. He had a little comment in
Oh,
here. He's
great
great at
example.
this, right? He has the Hotness Unleasher
Hmm.
podcast series. He's been doing this for a couple of years now.
Brilliant.
He's built a community around it, and he has he's just invited people in. He's just inviting people in,
Hmm.
and you got to give up something to get something, right? If you build it, people will come. Well, kind of. You got to find
Mm.
them and get them in, but you'd have to have something built too. So it's both and, right? If you can balance those and go back and forth, bounce it back and forth, people are hungry for authenticity and quality. I'm
Yes, I would agree with that.
starved in the digital landscape for authenticity and quality. There's no
Yeah, it's
replacement
getting
for it.
worse.
And with the rise of AI, I think that gets
Hmm.
worse. I think that
Yep,
exacerbates that human longing.
totally agree.
And so what I'm doing right now, I'm helping like redevelop and refocus an organization that has grown by relationship, right? The client base is there
Hmm.
based on relationship. And we want to make sure that's not lost as the organization grows. And that
Yep.
means focusing, we're an IT firm, on, you know, human centric use of technology, right? The communication aspect of it, tremendously important to me.
So how do you do that in such a noise like the IT crowd?
Mhm.
If you haven't seen that show, it's amazing. Go check it out.
I have.
The IT audience is inundated,
Mhm.
absolutely inundated. So I think authenticity is super important and helps break through the noise. But in terms of being able to develop that story in a very noisy
Yeah,
world for that audience, how are you using that framework
yeah,
to meet this audience where they are in a way that cuts through all that noise?
yeah. So first off, you have to have good product, right? Part of that is brand promise. There needs to be technical things that we offer that are reflections of that authenticity. And so one of our brand promises is when you call, we pick up the phone. Well, then your antennae go up with your IT firm, right? Because like when I call you, you actually answer. Now, many people have the pain point that they live with in IT where they open a ticket and it's like firing a snowball through the gates of hell, right? There's like no response and it's days before. And like, I can't do my work over here. And you all are, I don't know what you all are doing. It's totally opaque. There's no transparency. So that's one thing, right? You have to have a good brand promise. But then it's institutional marketing time. And that's not designing and buying Facebook ad time. And that could be part of it for sure. But it's like, are you writing valuable content that people have? Are you giving something to get something? You sharing the love, sharing the knowledge, right? Have a blog, have a newsletter, have these things that go out where you're sharing, you give the farm away, give the expertise away. This is what you need to know. On the IT side, I'm like, hey, did you know that 50% of ticket requests for an IT firm are password reset requests? It's a huge waste of time and resources. You need a
Huge.
password manager. We sell that, but here are the options that you have out there. Here, just give that away for free. You can have this. People sit up and they care. Why? Because it's an invitation into your community. You're giving them something of real value, and you're not charging them through the nose for every last shred of it. That makes you stand out in our subscription-based, like, hoarding of knowledge type thing. And
Mm-hmm.
but that's the world we occupy. Like, you got to be able to cut through that. But institutional marketing, are you going to live events, in-person events, online events? Are you showing up? Right? Are you writing? Are you
Mm-hmm.
speaking? Go to speaking engagements. Ask to speak. There are lots of, if whatever, IT, the world's awash in organizations, right? Nonprofit organizations that help people with technology, help people with cybersecurity, help people with this and that. Just ask. Look, I'll come and speak to your people for free. I'm not asking for anything. Here's the topic. Here's the PowerPoint. That's marketing. Some people are like, no, no,
Yep.
no, that's sales. It doesn't matter. The sales and marketing, they're like that. You know,
They have to
if
be.
they're not simpatico, you will fail.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
100%.
that's kind of where, like, my answer. It feels like maybe I'm being a little too emphatic here, but like, this gets me excited. Like, and this holds true for nonprofit organizations and for-profit organizations at the same time. You will not cut through the noise in today's world if you are not authentic and building a community.
So for you to be able to make that brand promise of always picking up the phone is huge because in the world of IT, when shit goes sideways, you need to talk to a person. I actually left one product um, and for payroll for going back to Zenefits did we started with Zenefits who did just the benefit side and we used Gusto for just payroll. And then Zenefits got payroll. Gusto still only did payroll, and we're like, cool, we'll merge and do one thing in one place. But they moved to a ticketing system. And then Gusto got benefits.
Yeah,
And when you call into Gusto with a problem, there's a person on the other side.
yeah,
So made my decision pretty easy.
yeah,
And the costs were pretty awash.
yeah,
So I was like, well, that's a no-brainer. So understanding that pain and being able to actually put promise behind it. And the other thing that you said that I love too is that all your other communication around the marketing efforts that you're doing lead up to that brand
yeah,
promise around how you show up for your customer. Um, the freemium model, I mean, talk to me about that because there is a lot of like
yeah,
little bit it's a little taboo in like the marketing world. Free trial, sure, but
yeah.
free period.
Well, that depends on what you're selling. Okay. I guess the most important thing to remember, to my mind, and you know, I haven't been to school for any of this, right? It's just my experiences and what I found that works.
I know that's what's great about it.
You don't have to give away the, you don't have to give the cow away for free, but you gotta give the milk away for free. And if
Mm.
people want milk, and if people want to have reliable milk, or people are looking for cows and they know your cow gives good milk, where are they going to go to get the cow? They're going to go to you. This is a differentiator, right? If you have no differentiator,
Mm.
right? If you don't have a community or authenticity, it's a race to the bottom. People, you are then marketing. Our services are the cheapest, right? Our services, they're the bargain. And if everyone's doing that, and most people are, it's a race to the cheapest price point. And then they cut what? Service
Mhm.
delivery, features, answering the phone. And they're outsourcing, they're offshoring, they're tearing everything apart that they can to try to be as lean an organization, as lean an operation as possible.
Profit margin.
And is that
Mhm.
where you want to be? Or do you want to be in a place where people seek you out because you're reliable and you have expertise, that people actually care about your brand for you, and that you can
Mhm.
charge more because of the trustworthiness factor? I tell my boss all the time, I said, we're not selling IT services, we're selling trustworthiness. That's true of every organization. Anything of
Yeah.
any value that anybody wants to buy, They have to be able to trust it. Sorry, Trevor, I know you bought the Temu dog ball launcher and you're stuck with it, right? And it sucks. But that's like, again, Temu's, and I'm just bashing Temu here on the call, right? But like Temu's model is the race to the bottom model.
Mhm.
Their value proposition is we'll give you crap for the lowest possible price. And
Yeah.
that what is Apple's value proposition? What is right? Everyone knows what's the most famous Apple commercial of all time.
Well, there's Think Different,
Think
and
different.
then
That's
there's
the think
yeah.
different. Put them on the map as an
Mhm.
identity-based, community-based brand. This is the life, right? This is the
Yeah.
goal. This is
And
the
they
apex
still
of what marketing is about.
lean into it too.
Absolutely, they do.
Like
And then there was I'm a
they
Mac
still
and
live
I'm a
by that.
PC, and they were like, if the cool person is the Mac, and the like stodgy guy with the suit who's like overweight and balding is the PC, and like there's just constantly once they have that identity constructed, once they have the authenticity, reliability, and trustworthiness, all you have to do is touch it. All you have to do is ping it, and it builds on itself. It's a cycle. Apple does the
Yeah.
cycle. Apple does the cycle. That's my argument to you, is that Apple does the cycle and it works, but it only works if you sell something good and
They do live up to their brand
you
promise that
build
way,
it
right?
around. Yeah, you have to be authentic and deliver. Absolutely.
And the 1984 ad was a very much Think Different sort of
Yeah.
mindset as well. So,
Yeah.
but I just love this. I don't hear people, we talk a lot about problem solution, right? Find the problem and talk about why you're the solution.
Yeah.
But the brand promise, in aligning to that, I feel like we've never really called out in such a clear way that's just so incredibly helpful. And to build a community around that brand promise. We have that at MKG on the employee side. It's so easy to hire.
Yeah.
We're a people first organization. We believe that if you have what you need
Right.
to do your job to the best of your ability and to live your life that you want by design, then you can have both here, right?
Yeah.
Like, and everything we do ladders up to that
Right.
in terms of the promises we make to our employees.
Yes.
And so it's easy to, people take pay cuts to come here because they want the stability, they want the work life balance, and they're
Right.
willing to trade that for a higher salary, which agencies just, it's really hard for agencies to compete with the in-house folks, right?
Yeah.
So different different stressors.
Right.
So what's hard about the other side of the coin when you're from an external standpoint, when you're a dime a dozen, agencies are a dime a dozen, right? And we try and talk about these soft, squishy things all the time about how because we're people first, we have less turnover, and we talk to that pain, but it's still squishy.
Right.
So we are working on what our brand, I haven't called it a brand promise, but I'm going to now. Like we're trying to define now like what that promise can be from a client perspective, and then how do we come back to that every single time, and what we're working around, and we haven't totally defined it yet, but it's this notion of proactive communication.
Right.
Right? How many agencies have you worked with where you are telling them what to do, or you're finding out about it afterwards, or you're trying to like get them to move,
Yeah.
right? We're ahead of it. We're looking at data all the time. We know what's coming, what's going on, and we are a one step, in terms of the chess pieces, we're one step ahead
Right.
because of that. So
Yeah.
that proactive communication is something we're thinking about from a brand promise perspective.
Right.
And you're just created so much clarity for me here, John, and I'm so grateful ahead. We have created such a journey in this conversation from your career path to be able to bring with you and share with us, because I don't know about you all, but I have taken some serious notes and there's going to be some serious action coming from this. Or is there either another skill that you think, wow, I'm really glad I have that? Or is there anything else you'd like to double down on in terms of this notion of these four pillars you've laid out for us and how you are using those today?
Skill wise, kind of to separate those two, right? We have to remember that marketing at its essence is not technical. So skill wise, the ability to speak, and I love talking because I've done most of the talking here. The ability to look at people in that way, the ability to shake a hand, and the ability, this unfortunately I think needs to be said now, the ability to pick up the phone and call someone, the ability to go to a room full of strangers and try to make friends with them is a difference maker, right? More than anything else, like those are skills. They can be learned, they can be taught, but we're in an environment now where like people my age and younger, I'm 40, people my age and younger are becoming allergic to the live interpersonal interaction. That's the death of marketing. That's the death of sales. I don't think you build a brand promise or adequately communicate a brand promise through a LinkedIn ad. I don't. I think that you build a community by having real interactions with real people. And insofar as that goes, if you have a um, if you have a strong community, your sales will grow based on the community growth. People will want to invite you, their friends and their colleagues and their family into your community as well. So that's what I'll say is the kind of like the biggest, most important thing to double down on here.
Build community. Yeah. And do it. Yeah. Referrals are definitely, I mean, it's how we've grown as a company for the last 13 years is, having a client we had one client called VMware. My business partner did a million cold calls to get into that
Yeah,
door, and then lots of relationship building to finally find our footing. But then like 80% of our clients can go back to that one because they
yeah,
left and went somewhere else and then brought us along, and then left and went somewhere else and
yeah.
brought us along. And it's been this wonderful journey of, these long-term relationships that we've had with those clients, and then the community that we've sort of built out over the years because of it. Yes, referrals are the ultimate marketing and sales motion if you can make it happen.
Yeah.
Picking up the phone, and it's sort of getting all of these motions and step together around that brand promise that is effective marketing.
But it takes organizational buy-in and patience. That's the other thing. If there is priority for speed and bulk, this approach is probably not going to work very well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If your organization says, no, 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 we have to either saturate the market or we have to grow at tremendous pace, you're not giving time for people to dial into a community. And I think that is the need for patience is actually the primary marketing need across the country or internationally, like in that field, the need for patience. And I think that every marketer ends up preaching that inside their organization is like, this takes time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I'm doing it right
You
now.
can't just go viral. I can't make that happen for you. Okay. That's like, yeah, okay, you can shoot way up the chart here. You'll come back down afterward. No one wants to talk about that. But like, yes, it's like this job takes patience. And
So much.
it's an art, not a science. This is not a vending machine. You can't say put dollars in, get views out, right? And even that, you can't say put views in and get sales out. That doesn't work because people are more messy than that. People refuse to be a vending machine. If they were a vending machine, we wouldn't need to worry about any of this. You wouldn't need marketers at all. You just need people to stuff views into this thing and get sales out, right? Anyone can do that. But the art isn't in the design work. People say, "Oh, art of marketing." They think like layout design or these things, and that's true. That's all art too. But I mean this kind of in a more holistic sort of framework kind of way. You have got, if you want to sell to people, you've got to build relationships, and that takes time. You can't just get married. You have to, one, get married to a specific somebody, and two, get to know them in advance. You can just kidnap someone off the street. That's not how this works. It's not how this works.
Slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Yes.
And in marketing, we are no longer in an age where we can throw spaghetti against the wall and do random acts of marketing and hope is not a strategy. Like those days are gone, folks. We need to be thoughtful planners because the buying cycle is longer because it takes time to build that trust.
Yes.
And the platforms are big, giant black boxes that don't like us to make big sweeping changes because it sends them back into the learning cycle.
Yeah.
So we have to slow down.
Yes.
We have to take thoughtful action, and we have to do it in a way that is towards that brand promise and builds that trust and community all day, every day. So thank you for...
Efficiency is investment. Efficiency is investment. That's
you spend less money.
If you have a strategy rather than paying. If you're not investing, you're spending your money inefficiently. It's like the difference between paying a mortgage and paying for rent. I'm not gonna, I'm not, but like you don't build equity if you're renting. You could be spending the same amount of money and maybe it works for you and there's other factors that balance that out in your decision making. But just in the abstract, world, you're not building equity when you rent. That's just a reality. And marketing should be a mortgage, not a rental.
Oh my gosh. Elijah clips for days. For days. I am so grateful for this conversation, John. Where can people find you? They want to learn more. They want to keep following your story.
Yeah.
What's the best place to reach out?
I've been on and off LinkedIn intermittently. I've been like posting whatever for the last month and a half or so. I've had some personal stuff happening and some professional stuff happening. But LinkedIn's the best way to get hold of me. If you want to shoot me a DM, connect with me there. It is John Connolly, MLIS PMP. That's me. And you'll see my face with slightly different glasses, but that's me. So I'm out there. I know you all are going to link to it on the posts and whatever, but happy to connect with people. Happy if they want to learn more or just exchange ideas. I'm always about that.
John was also on a wonderful podcast called Phoenix Forged. It's by a good friend of ours.
Yes.
And so we are dropping the link into that as well if you would like to hear more about John's story and
stuff.
how he's able to think the way that I know, but that shapes us.
It does.
That shapes us.
Yes,
so
in a big way.
Thank you for sharing and for being so vulnerable. We'll all be definitely checking that out. Last question for you, John. Outside of work.
Yes.
I know you're having an ice storm right now and kids are home, so this might be a tricky question for you at this very moment, but what is currently bringing you joy?
I am a watercolor artist. So I paint. And that is a huge boon in my life. I always wanted to do it. And then last year I just said, you know what, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. I was afraid of the commitment. I was afraid of sucking at it. And I still kind of suck at it, but it does bring me joy.
I'm so grateful for you, John. Thank you so much again for joining me. If you liked this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. This episode is brought to you by MKG Marketing, the digital marketing agency that helps complex brands find skeptical audiences and build trust over time through SEO and digital ads. This episode is hosted by me, Kerry Guard, CEO and co-founder of MKG Marketing. Music mix and mastering done by my podcast sidekick, Elijah Drown. And if you'd like to be a guest, man, I'd love to have you on. DM me. Let's hang out and have a wonderful conversation just like this one. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.